All right.
Welcome in to the Two Timers.
Yeah, if we had a good little audio dub there.
What's up, dude?
What's up, buddy? What you smoking on, big dog?
Just an Olivia. Believe you're smoking the same thing?
Yes, sir. Is Clark standing in the background?
Think so.
I'll make brief appearances.
It's been a hard
few days.
Hard few days for Clark, yeah. Clark, do you want to walk us through your emotions and feelings?
Just a lot of being ready to be done with fantasy, at least for this season.
So this is your third year, I feel like, pretty much being, I would say, devastated by injuries. Pretty
injuries, points against. I mean, to be fair, and we'll get into this a little later, like a lot of people this season have had to deal with bad injury problems, like really annoying injuries, devastating injuries. So just a little grinding, when you get a few weeks in, or we're half the season now. Thought you had a chance. Maresco's undefeated again.
Yeah. What's the win streak at Maresco now?
I believe 13.
13 in a row.
Yeah.
Wow. Impressive.
Kind of crazy. Feel like I'm taking some wind out of Clark's sails right now, though. I feel like I should start losing so I can get Clark back into the.
I'm happy that you're happy, I guess.
Hey, once a roommate, always a roommate, right?
That's right.
Yep.
I'm there in spirit.
All right. Let's dive into the recap, boys. Oh. Well,
right. I guess we'll go through this one without him,
Josh.
But I think the takeaway on this one was Clark's team got devastated by injuries, and then he got devastated by the Packers defense with his top two guys, right? So Stroud only threw like 80 yards, and Diggs obviously got shut down by Jair. But then he lost Debo, who they did not tell us was sick with pneumonia, which hurt. Lost Godwin to a season-ending injury, which hurts a lot. And then he didn't even start Juju, who is out for a long time now too. So just a lot of injuries on his part. So, props to Hannah, though. Her team put up some points. She would have beat a lot of teams in the league this week. So Darnold was back from his bye week with a vengeance. I didn't even look through her team that much, but Barkley, obviously, once again, and DK.
And Dicker.
And Dicker the kicker, baby.
Woo!
So, bummer of a week for Clark, but I think he's going to bounce back. I have faith. I told him that.
Yeah. Hey,
props to Hannah's team. Hannah's teams look solid.
Yeah. It's like one of those teams that just is like up and down, right? Some weeks she does this, some weeks she's putting up 60 points. So,
right. Yeah.
As a well-known fan, Maresco, what do you think Devontae's future looks like back with Aaron now?
Honestly, after last week, obviously he was traded like 4 days before that game, so he doesn't know the offense that well. I've watched a couple of the Jets games this year, and Rodgers kind of reminds me of what he looked like before Matt LaFleur came into Green Bay. I don't know if you guys remember those 2 seasons where Rodgers looked like he was done. Like he couldn't hit with receivers, and then LaFleur came in and he took off again. So I don't know. There's so much change going on in that organization. I hope there's a connection there, but they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. So I think Devontae's upside is way higher than it was in the Raiders, obviously. But
Well, he had missed Devontae missed like what 2 or 3 weeks before that with the hamstring injury.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
mean that could probably factor in, but I feel like the
To be
tough
fair,
thing, yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Josh. Go ahead. No.
I was gonna say the thing I feel like with Rodgers is, I was watching something earlier, and I know the Jets line up. Rodgers will audible. Typically, a lot of times he changes the plays at the line of scrimmage to just kind of based on the looks and stuff, which is good. Like he can do that, but I think it's a lot, and it also shows like a lack of like trust sort of in a play caller, which is fair. But it's sort of him, like he almost feels like he's trying to control the sort of situation rather than utilizing the resources around him and his coaches to sort of dissect the defense and call the right play. I don't know. It's interesting.
He is the GM and the coach.
It's true.
I mean, a lot of people have said that like whatever happens to the Jets this year is kind of on Rodgers. He doesn't really have excuses anymore, given like how many things have changed in season even for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think no matter what, this is Rodgers last year.
I feel like I let a lot of people down this week.
Ouch.
Happens, man.
Does happen. We forgive you.
Yep. Whoa. Mike's hair. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. I haven't seen that in a while.
What a find.
Mike,
Do you
bring that
recognize
back.
where that's from, Josh?
Is that Joshy's wedding or his wedding?
I'm pretty sure that's Josh's wedding.
Yeah, he was not very happy that day.
Any particular reason why?
Him and Karis were broken up at the time, so and she was shooting the wedding.
How are the turntables?
Yeah.
It's all good now.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Oh, Mitchell.
I'm gonna grab another
Bears.
drink.
The Bears. They were on bye, right? Yeah. No, they weren't. No, they were, right? The Bears were on bye?
Yep.
Okay. That hurts. So, obviously, the Bears were without the Bears, and the Bears got crushed. But, I mean, Dave is averaging, I think, I ran some numbers earlier. I think he's averaging like 94 points a game, and he's 3-4. So, he's getting some sneaky wins here. But not much to write home about this matchup, to be honest. I don't know what you saw in this. I mean, A.J. Brown being back is big for him, and Javonte Williams put up some points, but the rest of his team just did not look great. And then Mitch's team struggled. So, I mean, besides defense putting up, 20 points?
Yeah.
The rest of his team put up 35, so
yeah.
not much to talk about there.
I mean, I feel like one of the big takeaways from this that I have, and I think it's been sort of starting sort of just be this reoccurring theme, is just like the lack of production from Mahomes, right? Like,
oh yeah, it's weird.
It is really weird. I think he leads the league in INTs, and he just hasn't looked.
He's 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions right now.
Yeah,
that's weird. And they're 6-0, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure there's a couple of those interceptions that you can probably blame on somebody running the wrong route or not being where they're supposed to be or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, some of the picks that he's thrown that I've seen just watching some of the games have been pretty bad. So,
yeah.
So that's hurt Mitch.
It's hurt Mitch. I think he's got to, at this point, go with Caleb Williams, I feel like, when he's playing.
Yeah, I would think so.
Fantasy-wise, I would guess, like, there's no reason to really start Mahomes unless it's like a dirty matchup against Cleveland or Carolina or something, you know? So.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we'll see if Hopkins, I think, coming in helps. Be interesting. But yeah, good win for Dave.
Yeah, good win.
Win is a win.
3-4, right in it.
Yep.
Yeah, on to Matt and Micah. This was actually pretty close. I don't know if you were watching this one. I think it was Monday night with Baltimore's defense. Like at one point, Micah was down, I think 1 point, and then fell back a little bit with the Bucs scoring about 20 points in the last quarter. So, but good win for Matt. Moves him to 5-3, 5th place. I think. What happened to Dell? Did he go out of the game?
No, he just laid an egg, dude.
I guess that makes sense. I was watching the game.
They did not. That game script was so weird. Houston didn't pass the ball like at all.
Yeah, there was 86 pass yards, so Dell obviously didn't.
Mixon had a game, but
Yep.
Yeah, but it's got to be nice to see Burrow and Chase like having that connection over the last few weeks, even though this week wasn't that high. Like they're just like producing again. Cincinnati's starting to get a little hotter, so it's got to be rewarding for him to see. And then Jones has been more consistent this year, I think, than most people expected, even fighting through an injury. But poor Micah almost pulled it out. AR put up a pretty poor game for him again on his way back from injury, and he got some good stuff out of Tank and Najee, but just a tough loss by 5 points. If Baltimore's defense had just stuck it out, been sick for him. But
yeah,
how many teams has Tank been on so far this year?
A lot, and he was in that trade with.
Because Dave had him, and then he traded him.
Yeah,
and
someone
Matt
else
had him. I thought Matt paid for him at one point.
Matt or Kevin paid a lot of money for him at one point.
I think. Well, go ahead, Josh. I don't know.
No, I was gonna say I haven't really kept.
I can tell you in 2 seconds. You can literally just click on him. Hold on.
I will say the one thing while Chris looks that up, Matt, I think he started the season. At one point he was 1-2, so I think he's been 3-1 since then. So
On a bit of a streak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a bit of a streak.
Yeah, Kevin picked him off waivers for 25. 2 weeks later, dropped him. A week later, David picked him up for $23 off the waivers, and then 2 weeks later, traded him to Micah.
But I think someone dropped him. Or I think Matt, maybe not Matt. Maybe we're just thinking that because of Etienne. But I think someone dropped him, and then that's what let Kevin pick him up. I mean,
It says he
we'll
wasn't.
see.
It says he wasn't drafted. So
Fair. So maybe Weggy's pickup was the first one.
yeah,
Yeah, what a
effective plug and play. Go ahead, Josh.
what a turn of events though, right? Like Bigsby was terrible last year. Like he lost the coach's trust. He had some really bad plays in the passing game last year where the ball went like right through his hands. Ended up getting picked off or whatever. I just remember those plays. So
yeah.
But-
Well, speaking of Kevin, his team had a pretty good week this week. Hurts in the Philly off got some of his playmakers back, so that was helpful. Even with Tyreek putting up another poor game without Tua, so he's probably hoping he comes back. Doesn't get concussed right away. So, but I mean, across the board, his team played well. I mean, I think Kyron Williams, and he was texting me during Monday night. He was thanking me for letting him outbid him for Mark Andrews after the last
Mark Andrews. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, so he had 2 touchdowns and was taken off. He's had 2 good weeks in a row, so it's good to see Andrews back. For Ben, I mean, Baker just continues to put up points, obviously. I mean, he was chucking the ball at the end when they were down by 30 points, so and throwing Zins in his mouth while he was mid-game. So,
you guys saw that?
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
I mean, I think you have to look at Ben's team, obviously. I'm not sure we'll get into this later, with missing CMC for most of the year, and then that's spending like a third of his budget on that. He's still putting up points, and then Marvin, who he spent $50 on, has been pretty disappointing. So I have him in my other league, and Marvin, I benched Marvin pretty much at this point. So Bijan had a good week, but other than that, just kind of a struggle. But good win for Kevin. I think that moves him to Kevin's right back in, and he was 1-4 at one point. He's won 2 in a row. So
Yep.
I went with Ben. I went with the rename. I do like the rename. Josh, I think this is your doing.
Yep.
But it's a clever use of the fab and the titling. But
Got you.
unlucky.
you spent
Unlucky
$5
for
on that
Benjamin.
name.
Yeah.
I thought it was cheaper.
Might have been ended up being 2.
Okay. Well, on to the next one, Chris Jonesy. Good week for him. I mean, I'm giving a lot of crap for the trades he's making, but his team's producing. So, other than the one guy he traded for this week, Jameson Williams, who put up 10 points. So if Jameson had added his average week, I think he would have been close to 150 points team-wise. So, I mean, across the board, you look at this, it's kind of fantasy week you want. Most of his players breaking double digits, even a lot into the 20s. So,
Yeah.
For Dan, it's unfortunate that Jaden went out pretty early in that game because that's where he gets a lot of points. So I think if he had stayed in, it would have been a little bit closer. I don't know if he would have got the win still. So you never know. But Evans going out too early, that hurt him. I think Evans went out in the first quarter. So like a lot of his players just went out. But pretty solid point week for Dan. So, I mean, tough loss, but still in the playoffs. And
Yeah,
unfortunately,
I know Evans, the play he went out on, he understandably so, he dropped a second touchdown. And then he got hurt on that play, and that was it. So if somehow he'd ended up catching that touchdown and Jaden had ended up playing, because I know Mariota just absolutely slicing and dicing, Carolina. So it would have been interesting, but got to be nice for Jonesy to have Mixon back.
Yeah,
he,
really nice.
We'll cover injuries again later, but Mixon's been a monster every game he's played in this year. So
For a second, I read Jonesy's Williams as Jamal Williams, and I was like, Jamal Williams isn't in Detroit anymore. And then I was like, well, those are about Jamal Williams' numbers, though. So I guess both Jay Williams.
1 reception, -4 yards.
It's pretty bad.
Stay off the Viagra, Jameson.
Maresco with a little breakaway there, at least from the members that were on the show last week. Pretty good pick.
Nice. Great pick. On to my matchup. I mean, this is.
Do we even need to talk about this one? Do we even need Maresco to do a recap here?
I'll let you do a recap.
His team is playing well. Josh, you do the recap. You do the recap for his.
Yeah, I mean, there really is not much to be said. I mean, Chris has had an impressive season. He's been on an impressive run. He mentioned it earlier, 13 wins in a row. I think the biggest thing, I think we touched on it last week, dude, but just like Derrick Henry, he's just been a beast. And I know there was question marks in the draft when I think you spent 50 something on Henry. And I was kind of like, okay, betting on a 30-year-old running back, it's a pretty big bet. It's just really worked out for you, man. And then Kareem Hunt, what a great pickup off the waiver wire 2 weeks ago or whatever. He's been really good.
It should have been Carson Steele.
Kareem Hunt has had 52 touches the past 2 weeks.
Kareem Hunt looks like Kareem Hunt back when the first time he was on the Chiefs right now, to be honest.
He looks really good.
Yeah.
I just I'm hoping he gets some type of timeshare, just keeps it from Pacheco, but who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. But
I think the other thing with Maresco's team, it's impressive that your team is so consistent with how boom and bust your receivers tend to be. I mean, Amon-Ra is Amon-Ra, but Reed and Flowers obviously seem to have some weeks where they're getting huge target shares and big explosive plays. And then weeks like this where you're getting 5-6 points from the two of them and you're still putting up 127. So we won't pat your ego too much, but that points to pretty good consistency from your core guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a tough week for Natalie. I think she had some injuries, maybe some bye weeks as well.
Taylor was out and Ford was out.
So her running back.
And Amari played well, but first little bit in Buffalo as well. So who knows how it'll go.
Yeah. So that's always a lot to deal with, which makes it kind of difficult. So, but good win for Chris.
Is it coincidence that my 13-game win streak started when Jonesy traded with me?
You still have Amon-Ra from that trade? Is that it?
Amon-Ra. Did I keep anyone else from that? No, because I drafted Reed and I traded back for Flowers. So it's Amon-Ra.
Yeah, and you traded.
I drafted Flowers last year.
Traded Devontae to Ryan, right?
Yeah, and then I traded Micah back for Save Flowers before the draft to keep him. And traded Devontae Smith to Ryan.
Yep. Jeez.
Well, we'll see how long it lasts.
Yep.
Could be a good long one. Another very similar score to what Maresco put up. Josh, your team bouncing back pretty well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised I put up 127 points considering the red rifle.
Did he get hurt?
Did
No, he
he get benched?
His ego.
He got pulled at the very end, but he just played bad, dude. He was just bad. The doubtful is for this
doubtful week. is the coaching staff's opinion of him. It's not got anything to do with injury.
He was in a car accident yesterday.
Oh,
So
that's
why-
right. I did see
yeah. So that's why he's doubtful. So,
that. Yeah.
Ryan's team, Lamar puts up 40 and he still doesn't break 100. That's tough.
Just want to
Yeah.
say I would have beat Josh by 0.4 points if we had played head to head. So Josh still sucks. And
not much I can say.
now, isn't it? It's interesting watching Ryan's team the last couple of weeks, like because we were so high on him, right? Like he's thrown up 140, 150 points most weeks. So it just goes to show fantasy. I was looking through his team earlier when we were going through the injuries, and besides, like I think he missed Chani for a little bit and Smith for a couple of weeks, and Neighbors I guess was out. So like, but now his team is really healthy. So I think he's gonna pick back up from where he was. Like he has no injury designations on any of his players besides Kamara. So that's kind of crazy. But yeah, Josh could win. I mean, we all doubted you. I wish I hadn't doubted you.
It's all good, man. I was kind of questioning whether or not it would work out. Much needed win, though.
That was a much needed win. That's a big win.
Yep.
Must be nice. Must feel good to win.
You won 2 weeks ago, Clark.
I only got 2 this whole year. The first week and the week before. It's okay. It happens to everyone. Our picks this week didn't do too hot myself. Both of y'all did pretty good. Well done, 5-2. Maresco extending his lead in the overall for the season so far. Lots of time left, but Maresco up there. Josh, you're pretty close as well. Micah and I, Guest and I, kind of tend to be in the same boats a lot this year. So.
I don't know how to pronounce that name. How do you say Devon?
Achan?
Is it Achan?
I think so.
A-Chain?
I always call him Achani.
A-Chain?
A-Chain.
I think it's A-Chain. That's what that's what
my
Chris
bad,
Collinsworth says, and we all know how trustworthy he is.
Look, we can't really question Chris much because the man is a winner. So I think you're going to have to give him a pass on the name.
His name is Achani.
All right.
Henceforth, his name shall be.
So big news in our picks this week. For the first time, someone other than a two-timer or someone on the call did better than us. So Jonesy went 6-1. Congrats, Jonesy. Well picked.
Fuck you, Jonesy.
I think we wagered. Do we wager $2? We can confirm. Do we wager $2 or $3?
We wagered $3.
I'm not giving
we
you
wagered
shit.
$3 a fab, and Micah did. So it's $12 a fab to Chris Jones. I'll let David know and get everything issued. But just to say, you're leaving fab on the table if you're not doing the pick 'em with us. Jonesy is going to get $12 in fab. That's not insignificant. So
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Way to go, Jonesy.
Well done, Chris.
Except for being a
Kudos.
bozo last week.
Yeah.
And then the other fab we have to give away. This one we're going to blaze through because no one's happy about it. But it was the player with the most air receiving yards, and that went to Amon-Ra.
You fucking
Rich
kidding
getting
me?
richer. Like no one wants to hear about this.
All right,
Actually,
let's
just for the remainder of this little chunk, let's just pull him out of the call,
Yeah.
and then we'll move on to the next thing. All right, he can be back now. We'll bring it back. All right, welcome back, Chris.
The only problem is
Bozo
now
of the
we
week.
spend $2 to get back to $69.
I don't think it'll be a problem spending $2 somewhere. Both of the week. So this one, and we can pull up the transactions here in a second. But we technically, according to the rule of the law, which is if you bid more than $10 over the next lowest bidder for a player, you are the Bozo of the week. We had multiple players do that this week. Josh, do you want to run us through who did what?
No, because this award
and what
makes
the bids
no
were?
sense. It's flawed.
I can go through it.
Ugh.
Josh doesn't like this award, so
No,
Let
I
me
mean,
pull
we
the
should-
transactions.
if you want to follow up next week because the players that we spent all this fab on don't end up performing, sure, call us Bozos then.
Josh bid $20 on Ricky Pearsall. See, I'm now hesitant to name any names.
Let's go with Ricky. A strong Ricky.
Ricky. And
Ricky.
the next
Ricky.
closest bid was David at $0. So that's a $20 overbid.
That's
Clark.
the biggest bozo, one could argue.
Biggest bozo. Clark bid $12 on Rashad Bateman. Next one was David at $0. So that's $12. And then the second one was Mr. David Dean, our commissioner, bid $47 on Juwan Jennings. The next was Chris Jones at $34, so $13. So
yeah. To be fair, was that last week? Yeah,
No,
I guess we had one last week we missed, right? Wasn't Sean Tucker?
Oh, Sean Tucker was one, yeah. Jonesy, yeah.
But that would have been after the two-timers happened and before the week and everything. So
yeah, so we should be talking about Sean Tucker this week.
How did Sean Tucker do this week?
Not great.
Not good.
Not worth $14.
So that's see, that's a bozo right there, right?
But here's the thing. Let's caveat that because there's always a back end of that. Jonesy has Rachaad White. So I think his primary pickup of Sean Tucker, it was to back up or to handcuff Rachaad White in case he goes out.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's still a bozo move to spend $14 on him when you're trying to pick up your handcuff. Like,
see, I don't agree.
But the bozo award has nothing to do with how productive they actually are. It has to do with the fact that you could have still had that level of production for significantly less money, right? So even let's say Juwan Jennings goes out and does another one of his 3 touchdown things and gives David like 35 points this week. That doesn't mean he's probably worth 47, but he could have had him for 35. So I think that's the spirit of the bozo.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll see. You got a lot of faith in Ricky over there, Josh. We can loop back with you next week to see if Ricky was worth $20.
Yeah, sure. Let's follow up.
Oh, we're gonna follow up with you next week now, Josh.
All right, go for it.
Don't you worry.
Okay. Going from Bozo of the Week, we could go 2 directions here. Josh put out a poll to the league to ask two-timers some questions. And then we also have a discussion on injured players and the significance of injured players this year comparatively to last. So, Maresco, as the league leader and pick'em leader, I'll let you decide which direction you want to go at this moment in time.
Let's go with the injury report.
All right.
Let's get out.
So, injury report. Whoops, that's not what we want. We want to share this one. So, Chris, you put this together. If you want to run us through kind of what the structure is here.
Yeah, I think we were talking. Obviously, Clark's team got pretty beat up this week. Other teams have gotten beat up pretty good this year. But so I just went through and kind of pulled the key IR people right now, and then the reserve, and then also the key players that have missed a good amount of games here and there. And it just seems like a lot of our studs are kind of been out a lot. So, I mean, starting with the left side, you got a lot of starters, and then you got people that haven't even played at all this season, like JJ McCarthy shouldn't even be on there, but like CMC, and then the pup reserve, a lot of those guys haven't played at all, right? TJ Hawkinson, Higbee, Brooks, Keaton, Clark, another Clark one, have been out the whole year, and then a lot of these guys went out like week 1, like Puka, or week 2. So all these guys on IR, these are a lot of receivers. It's kind of something that sticks out to me across the bottom. Besides like Pacheco and McCaffrey, it feels like running backs have been beat up and missed a game or 2 and then come back. Besides CMC and Pacheco. But the good news is like players are coming back this week, right? Josh, you're getting cut back.
Yep.
Devontae and AJ came back last week. Hopefully there's hope that Debo plays this week, but who knows? And Nick Chubb's coming back from the reserve to make Ryan's team stronger. And a lot of these players on the right are playing right now, right? So like Mixon, Walker, but it's just you have to make a lot of moves, and it's hard to make a lot of moves in our league because most of the handcuffs are taken like Sean Tucker. So,
right,
yeah, and I think this was surfaced. I forget if it was one of the shared text chains or what, but that in some capacities, like injured players that aren't ruled out for the season, like on IR, are almost more difficult to plan around. Because IR, like, all right, we know, Nico Collins, or don't even do Nico, do Godwin. Like Godwin, Ayuk, they're out for the year, right? You can drop them, and you know that the replacement Tampa Bay and 49ers receivers are probably at least viable. But like someone like Evans, you're not going to drop Evans when he's out week to week or 2 to 3 weeks. and the replacement receivers in Tampa Bay aren't necessarily going to be long-term options for you. So like all the like intermixed just players that are out for 3 to 4 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks is almost more difficult to plan for than IR players.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, and like the guys that are, they like shift from out to back to questionable to out like 10 minutes before the game. So you don't have time to pick anyone up. It's just a pain in the, but
well, and
I just also feel like this league, it's really hard to like prepare for injuries in a way, or like be able to respond to injuries unless you prepared a few weeks in advance. Does that make sense? Like there's no one available most of the time. So most of the time, like Ayuk goes out, people spend money on Juwan and Ricky. So like people are willing to spend $67 combined on the 4th and 5th receiver in San Francisco. Yeah, that shows how deep our league is.
Yeah.
And I feel like the league being as big as it is now, that certainly plays a factor.
Yeah, you almost have to predict injuries, right? You almost have to be like, oh, 49ers might be thin at receiver in a few weeks. I'm going to pick up Jennings, and I don't even know who's there behind. It's not Ray McLeod anymore. But, and also where like a lot of people have had to deal with pretty killer injuries. I think that Dan's entire starting receiving core is on this list right now in the form of Rashid Shaheed, Puka, and Mike Evans. I mean, I think that was basically his receivers. So he's lost pretty much all of his receivers in one capacity or another.
Yeah. I think I was just looking at Dan's lineup earlier. His receivers he has right now are Wan'Dale Robinson and Allen Lazard.
Oof.
That's brutal.
That's pretty rough. Maresco, would you attribute any of your success to not having to deal with major injuries, and or are you worried about major injuries kind of rocking the boat for where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're always worried about it. And yes, I would say that a lot of my success so far has been no injuries to my key 8 guys. Like I don't shift out that many people. If you look at my lineup, the only ones that kind of come in and out are my tight end, which I'm kind of sticking with Parkinson at this point because there's no other better option. And then Hunt kind of replaced Ramondre because Ramondre was hurt when I got Hunt, which was nice. But like, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of fantasy comes down to if you can stay healthy or not, and you have no say over that. So every time, like even Derrick Henry being in the game at the end of that game was scary to me. Like they're up 25 points and then he rips off an 80-yard run. I'm like, oh, thank God he was still in the game. But yeah, definitely. I think so far this year, I haven't, knock on wood, had to deal with too many injuries. I have had this in the past, like my first few seasons in this league. I remember being ridden with injuries. I remember losing players in preseason, like my top guys that I spent money on, right? So kind of understand how the pains of fantasy are. So I think I'd be prepared in some ways. I have some backups ready to go and stuff like that, but we'll see. I mean, like when Ramondre was out, I started Gibson and he sucked. So who knows? You just never know. Like the handcuff, you have the handcuff, but he gets 4 points. So, but then Ramondre comes back and gets 3 points. So just fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes your backup will explode sitting on your bench or something like that. It's just.
I feel like as long as St. Brown, Henry, and Allen stay healthy, my team will be competitive no matter what. That's how I feel about my team, right? So it's like.
Flash forward 1 week. Henry, IR. Allen, questionable.
I mean, if that happens, I'm done. Like my season's over. So, but it's the same thing for most people. Most people have 3 or 4 like studs and the rest.
To be fair, and I guess we could go back and look at your team over the last couple of seasons, but Ben and I were chatting about this the other day, that like some of the formulas for consistently successful teams in our league has been like a quality quarterback and then a couple of bell cows. Like my back-to-back years were like Mahomes, Hopkins, and Todd Gurley. And it's like those guys were always solid. And then whoever you mix in, you just kind of, figure out how to, AJ Green, Mr. Turf Toe himself. So like right now, that's Maresco's formula. So as long as those guys stay, healthy, who knows? We say 4 times, who knows?
You get boom and bust players on your team. That's the kind of thing you were talking about earlier with like Flowers and Reed. Both of them have put up 20, 25-point games, but then also 2-point games. So just part of fantasy.
We'll see how it falls.
I fortunately get Dan this week. unfortunate for Dan that he's starting those 2 wide receivers. But
yeah, so we don't necessarily have to get too deep into this, but it is interesting to see, and not to take anything away from you and Ryan, specifically the top of our league. Let me see if I can pull up the league standings.
I have the lowest points against for sure.
Right. So you and Ryan, the top 2 teams in the league, have the lowest points against by a decent margin. You're the only ones in the 600s. Which, like, and you guys also have some of the highest points for, right? Like, I think you guys are 1-2 in points for. So it doesn't necessarily mean you guys aren't good, but there is an element of, like, you can probably afford to not have super high scoring consistent games and still squeak by on, teams that might not match you week to week.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't have to get all the way into that.
Yeah.
Josh, I know you go ahead if you wanted to add something.
No, I mean, you bring up a great point. I was just looking at this again. I feel like I looked at it at some point over the past few days, and it's just like, yeah, I imagine it's frustrating, especially for, people like Ben, right? Like he like compared to the rest of the people in the league, points against, like,
he has more points. He has more points against than anyone in our league has points forward.
Yeah. And
that's crazy.
It is. So, I mean, Dan's actually up there too, which makes his 4-3 record pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Especially considering, wasn't Dan like one of the teams that Yahoo projected? I think it was Dave, Moresco, you, and Dan, like said, had like the worst draft, I think.
Drafted projections had Dan in last place.
Yeah.
So it's also worth noting that, like, at least this season, like, quarterback scoring has been pretty down, and both Dan and Moresco have, like, consistently highly achieving quarterbacks or high point scoring quarterbacks. So, like, if you have a competitive advantage in a position like that, I think it pays out pretty significantly.
So does Ryan. He has Lamar.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's fantasy. There's some mixture of skill and luck and, having the right guys year to year. But I was chatting with, I think, Ben, and then I texted David about this. I'm curious what your guys' opinions are. If you think this is a terrible idea, or if you think it would just never get passed in our league. What do you guys think if, like, playoff-wise, the top 6 teams automatically get in, and then the 7th team in our league is just whoever has the highest points for in the bottom 8, from, like, a purist perspective, to say, hey, we can't control schedule, we can't control who you play, but you are technically a strong team based on points.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that.
I know a lot of leagues that do top 3 get in, and the next top 3 are highest points forward. Like,
interesting.
Those are like higher paying leagues, right? People that are putting a couple thousand in, but it's like that way you don't get screwed over by schedule like this.
Yeah. It's it's definitely an interesting thing to think about. I don't know. I feel like, I've never done it before, so I feel like it's kind of hard to speak on it. But it's definitely, probably something worth considering, especially because I feel like we've been running into this a little bit more over the past couple years.
Well, and we've always, like, I get our league is set up on, like, hey, you play the way that the league is structured, right? You have matchups, whoever's in the top end of the league, like, based on those matchups. Like, it's not a perfect system. Otherwise, we'd be, points for would be the biggest indicator. But it's just interesting thing to think about.
It's also our first year with 7 people in the playoffs in a 14-man league. So, like, that's something I think we've talked about this over the years, even in a 12-man league, about doing something like this. So I think there's times where teams just get absolutely. I think it gives credit to teams that put up points, but also get screwed by the schedule, if that makes sense. And it doesn't make up for teams that just have terrible seasons and still get points scored on them. So I don't know. It's just you look at. I mean, Ben's a prime example this year of.
Yeah, Ben is exactly it this year.
He has 850 points against him, and he has the highest out of the bottom
He has the sixth
At
highest
least.
points in the league. If it was by points, he'd be in the playoffs right now.
Yeah. But
I guess-
so would you, right?
Yeah, it'd be 7. I mean, I'm not as good of an example, but yeah.
I guess the one argument, and it's not like a perfect argument. I think there's flaws to it. But I know like one thing as a manager that I look at and that I've thought about, and it's part of why I can be pretty active in the trade market is like I'm monitoring, like I'm looking back, after the first few weeks of the season, I'm looking at, okay, am I consistently like putting up like 100 points?
Right.
And if I'm not, then maybe it's time for me to sort of like try to make some moves to sort of see if I can improve my roster to sort of find a little bit more consistency. So I guess that could be one argument that people could make. And the nice thing about our league specifically is I think for the most part, people are pretty active when it comes to trades. And I know I'm in another league where trades are kind of like, like people don't like the trade, stuff like that. So it's probably like some ways like league dependent, but I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. You guys feel free to comment, but
No, it does.
Yeah.
We'll have to have an episode here soon, like with a bigger fleshed out trade corner, not just on trades that have happened in our league, but Joshy, maybe you take like I would recommend these trades to these people type of thing. Just trying to keep things active. I don't know. Maybe we try and get a couple guests on and facilitate that. We'll see.
yeah, I mean, I think it's trade. Yeah, it's tricky. I have my perspective on trades, but like your perspective and your approach and thought process could be completely different. So, but yeah.
And there's also
Yeah.
like we've seen this in our league the last number of seasons. Like there are players or managers that are more willing to trade than others, and
Sure.
like that are more willing to be like, hey, this is a risky endeavor. Like it could pan out for you, it could pan out for me. Like Jonesy and I's trade actually isn't a bad example now. Like I thought like that trade served both of us well, and I liked what I got out of the trade, but now Godwin's gone, right? So it's like the way that kind of trades pan out, no one can really predict, as long as they're generally in the same ballpark. But we obviously know there are different levels of rationale and subjectivity about value. So you're never going to
Sure.
get away from that.
Right. Yep.
That said, though, moving on, Josh, you put out something to the league to get some questions for the two-timers.
Yeah. No, I appreciate everybody. We got 5 people who provided some questions.
All 5 of those people will be getting $2 in Fab. No, I'm kidding.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Three of them were Josh, Clark, and Maresco.
Yeah, it's anonymous, so I don't know who commented. I could guess. But I'll start with the first question. It says, why is it whenever Josh picks Kevin to win, Kevin wins?
I think you should answer that one, Josh.
Yeah, that's you, Josh.
Yeah, that does seem like a Josh question to answer. I don't know. I think it's a vibes thing, sort of a gut feeling. That's really all I can sort of like say. Luck, maybe?
We'll have to test this. We'll have to see if it's consistent. We're going to start having like a Kevin tracker or a Weggy tracker. And when Josh picks Weggy, we'll see if it stays.
I like the Weggy
accurate
tracker.
or not. Yeah, we'll get a Weggy tracker in our picks.
There we go. All right. Moving on to question number 2. Can you discuss how it feels to be a winner for those of us who are not familiar?
I can't right now. I feel like
I think
I'm
Josh
not
should
being
answer- I think Josh should answer
Let's
this
just
one.
talk about this.
I don't
Do you
know.
feel like a winner, Josh?
I mean, I do typically but it's on a kind of, I'm a regular season.
Typically. With
I'm a
fantasy
regular
or just in life, Josh?
Well, both, but I'm a regular season winner. I mean, I think that's evident in fantasy, but it comes playoff time, like I win. I mean, I've gotten second place like 2 times in this league, which is painful. So, but like Maresco, you were the ultimate winner. Like
To be honest,
True, he
that's a
really
good
is.
question for the two-timers because 5 of the 9 championships are on this call. Clark, I'll let you go first.
It's a bit of a
This should
sore
boost-
week to have to answer this question.
this should boost your morale for the rest of the fantasy season.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Start
so
with a good
here's the
time.
thing. It's been so long since I've been successful, like legitimately successful in this league, that I really don't remember the feelings.
Oh no.
And it feels a little bit of like imposter syndrome to talk about it, but how does it feel? I feel like I've been such a heavy loser the last 3 seasons that the winner things are escaping me.
I mean,
I miss the trophy. It feels great to have the trophy.
the trophy's
I
nice to have
remember
in your room.
when we were in Arlington, Moresco, that was you had won it, right?
The
Those
last
few
year we
years,
were
and it was
together,
up
I had
there.
it. You had it for
Yeah.
2 years. We gave it to Dan for a year. Then I got it back for a year. And
Yeah, because I think it lived in our house when we were living together almost the entire time Moresco and I lived together, to be fair.
So I think
So,
honestly,
that felt pretty good.
I saw the trophy and that helped me win. So like Josh, you should
Hmm.
probably come lose to me in Cornwall and like spend some time with the trophy. It might give you some good juju. It might make its
Maybe
way.
drink out of it.
You might
You gotta be
jinx it.
careful there.
You
gotta
might
be
jinx
careful
it to
there.
do that.
It's like the Shiva. You know, you need a little bit of the aura, but you can't overextend.
It's fair. Yeah.
To be
I've
fair,
been-
Moresco, have we not been living together for 3 years now?
About 2.5.
So that's how bad my seasons have been the last 2 seasons and this year.
Yeah.
Were you living with Moresco when you won those championships?
Yes.
Both of them, at least one of them for sure, because it was at our places.
It was both of them.
Um,
It was both of them because
I think it was both of
we
them.
were together for
Yeah,
5 years
yeah.
before we broke up. So
So I mean, I was living with Moresco. Things were going well. I moved out. I started living with Sarah. Really bad at fantasy. So
Oh no.
wait, so this it seems like
she's just popped up there.
it is true. Ever since Sarah came into your life, fantasy has gone downhill.
Moresco says, ever since you came into my life, fantasy has gone downhill, Sarah.
Wow.
Your wife or your fantasy life?
She says, what's more important,
That's-
wife
that's-
or
That's,
fantasy
your,
life?
that's for you to answer, Clark.
Ooh.
We'll pick that up on a later date.
Woo.
Anyways, yes, it feels good. That's all that matters.
Yeah, next
Yeah.
question, Josh. Let's see what's
Next
next.
question. All right. That was a good one. All right. Clark, actually, I feel like you already touched on this. This question, if you could change one rule in the league, what would it be?
I mean, I think the one rule that I would change, and I don't know if this counts as a rule or just kind of our league operations, has been the same thing that I've said for years, which is I think it should be winner take all. Winner should keep all the money. There shouldn't be anything in the consolation bracket. I know that's just my opinion. I get the reasoning for doing alternate payouts and having like incentive in the lower bracket. So that's the primary thing I would change. I am now intrigued by this idea of having the 7th position in the playoffs be a points for position. Just because at that point, like it would keep everyone that's below legitimate playoff contention based on record engaged in the league, I think. Like I still want to put up points. I still want to potentially get like that wild card slot, if you would. So I'm intrigued by that.
Right.
I don't know if I'm sold on it, but I'm interested.
I agree with that.
Well, I mean, based on the structure right now, I mean, the person with the highest amount of points in the league at the end of the year gets 50.
Yep,
Yeah.
I think so.
And second place.
Yeah.
gets
So, I mean, it kind of,
Or
it
100.
does kind of, yeah.
It
and,
dwindles.
I
I
mean-
think the winner gets like 550, I think, and then
It's
there's
a big chunk of it goes to winner, which is good.
I have no issues with second place getting $100. I have no issue with points for. I don't have issues with the payouts. I think I like the idea that Clark's been throwing around. I've definitely talked to Dave about that in the past too. About that, just because I've seen other leagues do it, and it keeps people, like Clark said, engaged. Like it makes you not feel as bad after a loss in some ways when you're at like pushing for a playoff position, as long as you have those points
Sure.
forward. And I always harp on that. Like points forward is so crucial, even if your record is close to the last place. Like last year, it paid off for me big time when my points forward were higher because I had the same record as 3 other teams, right? So
Right.
it's like the points forward is something that's crucial even in our league right now. But I kind of like the idea of that points forward getting that spot even with a less record. But I don't know.
And I don't know what it looks like for Dave either. Like if it's a huge pain to do something like that, then that's also a caveat. But go ahead, Josh.
No, I wasn't going to say anything. I was just kind of agreeing with you guys, just sort of thinking through.
Do you guys like the kicker?
I like having. I don't want to eliminate kicker as a position.
What
I think it adds a wrinkle.
Have you ever played in a league with a second flex spot?
Yeah, but also with a kicker, like just with an additional flex.
Yeah,
I have not.
I played with. I've done the same thing as Clark, so I was wondering if that's something that the league would be open to, but it would be hard because we have not many players.
Do you think? And I like the fact that we adjusted it to yardage, but like, do you think the fact that kickers now have adjusted points to yardage has kind of like overpowered that position? Because we've got a lot of kickers scoring 15 plus points a week right now.
I was looking at it. A lot of kickers are outscoring the quarterback every week, which is crazy, in my opinion. But I also don't mind it because it seems like it's pretty fair across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows that you got to at least do a little bit of research on kickers and try to determine, sort of project who you think is a good option for your team, potentially, on a week-to-week basis. So I don't know. I think part of it is too, like with the quarterback position, I think the quarterback position just on many levels this year has been kind of shit. So
yeah, it's been bad.
It's kind of, I think it's tricky, but
yeah.
Be funny to see next year, like Aubrey and Mahomes getting like the same amount of money bid on them or something like that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yep. All right. Good combo. Make sure to fill out the survey that Dave sends out. I feel like he sends one out maybe during the season and then a couple times during the off season. So
yeah,
if you think it's something good, write it down, send it to Dave.
Yeah. And I think in conjunction with Dave, we'll probably have a two-timers like off-season episode that will be like a rules town hall type thing. So like if you want to come on, like anyone would be welcome type of thing. And we could have like a discussion around, you could lobby for your, projected rule or proposed rule change. And we could kind of talk through them. I think that would be a better way to get traction on some of these things, potentially.
If we're going to do that, Jonesy's banned from being able to do that.
Because he's a professional in that.
Yeah, because he's a professional in that field. So sorry, Jonesy. Love you, but no. Woo.
All right, let's get to the final things we got to do here in terms of business.
Let's do it.
Which is weekly fab. This was our stuff last week. I realized what we haven't done. Yeah, we're going to give them some options here. I realized what we haven't done yet is like team-based scoring. So like the team with like the largest winning margin or the closest winning margin or the largest blowout loss, that type of stuff. We haven't done anything like that yet.
Oh yeah, I like it.
I enjoy that one. Yeah.
Team with biggest blowout win. Team with closest win.
And just me.
I don't know. Yeah. Good point.
Come on.
All right. I don't know how we can give him much more than that.
He did have a 50-50 shot last week, a little less, but yes. Let's
go.
Does that mean his team has to lose in order to get the money?
Yes.
All right. So, Mika, if your team loses, you get fab. If you win, we're going to respin next week for an actual fab category.
Oh, shit.
You may or may not be on it.
He's playing Ryan this week.
He's got a good shot at it.
Oof.
All right. So, last things we got here
would have been funny if it
going
landed
to
on me 'cause
be
too much.
going to be our picks. Let's see. I think we have a link for this, right, Josh? Let me send it out real quick.
Yeah, we did.
For week 8 picks.
Is it just me, or is there like 2 or 3 people who are like changing their names every single week? I know Ben is, but he's making money off of it. It's kind of a good move.
Kevin's changing it a lot this year.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know my keyboard is loud. Okay. So if you guys got the link, we'll go Josh, Maresco, me.
We need a
So I
coin,
can
don't
do
we?
that way. Oh yeah, I got one.
I'm gonna go with sorry, Clark. I'm gonna go with go with Kevin.
I'm gonna have to go with Kevin.
I'm also going with Kevin. And we will go heads will be Kevin, flowers will be me. Coin is going heads, so that's Weggy. I guess we can submit a thing on the survey for coin. Well, Josh, you and I can figure that out later.
Yeah.
So did everyone go Weggy? Everyone, this is sweep for Weggy. Maresco, this goes you first.
I'm gonna go Dave. Nat does have Jonathan Taylor coming back.
I'm gonna go Dave. Yeah, you're right. There's some bench stuff going on there, but I'm going Dave.
It's not a certainty. He did practice today, I think, in a limited fashion. So,
well, she has Sermon if he doesn't play, right?
Yeah, but Goodson's kind of taken over that position, man.
He
had a pretty good week last week for Jonesy. I'm gonna go with Dave.
All right, coin will be Flowers, Dave, Queen, figurehead, Natalie. It is Queen / figurehead, so Natalie is where the coin's going.
All right,
breakaway.
This could be in the running for matchup of the week, I would argue.
Yeah,
I think this one could be really good.
be
I
interesting.
think I haven't really looked up their matchups. I like Matt's matchups quite a bit, I think, across the board. I'm going to go Matt.
I'm gonna go Matt.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Matt as well. I think Terry's gonna remind Jonesy why he traded him.
We will go the Queen, very fittingly for Matt. Flowers for Jonesy.
Jonesy.
Flowers, coin with a
Come back to
breakaway
bite
for
you.
Jonesy. All right, Dan versus Maresco. I'm not flipping the coin for this. The coin is taking Maresco. Maresco, you get first pick.
I'm going myself.
I'm also going Maresco.
Maresco.
There we go. Done. Sorry, Dan. I think we're all rooting for Dan, maybe sans Maresco,
Sure.
but just a matter of what we think is actually going to happen. This is to me first or to you, Josh? Should I skip you by accident?
You might have, but it doesn't matter. I'm going myself.
And then to you, Maresco.
I'm gonna go Joshy.
So many of Ben's matchups look really good this week. I'm going to go Ben. And we will go Flowers, Ben, Queen, Josh, Flowers to Ben. Hannah, Mitch. I'll go first this one. The Bears are back, but I don't know. Do we know if if the Washington current stud is going to be starting at quarterback this week.
It's questionable.
Essentially,
Hasn't
the
practiced.
other big thing is DK had I think like a PCL sprain, maybe. So I doubt
Something
he's playing this
he's
week.
very, very questionable, I think.
What about
Um,
Kittle?
I think Kittle's fine.
Kittle did not practice today, so. Ooh,
Do we know if it's like a didn't practice, or like a rest day, didn't practice?
didn't practice. DNP was the
Minor injury.
Long
sprain.
line. So
He
we'll
could end
figure
up
out
playing.
Thursday.
If he plays, he's going to get a lot of targets, though.
I mean, this is the interesting thing about Mitch's team is just like, is Washington a good matchup for Chicago? I could see it kind of being a shootout, but I could also see them kind of getting frustrated. I don't know. Either way, I guess I'll take the slightly safer option. I'll go Hannah. Yeah, Josh.
Yeah, I'm going Hannah. Mitch's team sucks.
I'm also going Hannah.
We're going Queen, Mitch, Flowers, Hannah. Flowers. Coin goes Hannah. And our last matchup of the week, we got the rookies facing off, the sophomore players, last year's rookies facing off. Maresca will give this one to you.
Ryan.
Yeah, I'm going Ryan too.
Suggestion for Micah, since his name is bound for Denny's. Micah, I think you should go to a Denny's ahead of time. Get some pancakes, maybe some eggs, cup of coffee. See if that breaks the curse for you. I'm going Ryan this week, though.
Coin, Queen, Micah, Flowers, Ryan. It is Flowers. So we have a sweep for Ryan. Alrighty, that does it. I need to remember who I chose because I was not filling out the form.
Well, Josh, you're not going to gain ground on me because we picked the same.
Yeah. I'm pretty confident about my picks this week. I think I'm going 7-0.
Did I pick Matt or Jonesy? Do you guys remember?
I don't remember.
I think you chose Matt, but I could be wrong about that.
All right. I'll submit it as is. Can adjust if need be. Well, that does it for Two Timers this week. I'll give you guys the floor to close it out.
He just disappears. It was
Uh,
a good combo.
it was.
Enjoyed this
I
one.
like the questions and interaction.
I think we should do that more periodically.
Yeah, I think we should have an open forum.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can. It's obviously hard to, because people are probably busy, but could be fun to have people put in live questions during the live session. But we'll have to
Yeah,
do
I'd like
this
to
every
ask
once
for
in a
more participation in the chat next week.
Yeah.
It's a little
Agree.
dead this week. So,
while. Yeah, it was
but-
kind of disappointing.
yeah. Well, good luck this week, Josh.
You too, buddy. It's a good one.
All right, Clark, you can end it now.